What are all the different possibilities that can happen when you enter a trade based on VWAPs? So, let me tell you. So, in this video, we're going to be talking about time period based VWAPs. We're going to be using my indicator called Leapfrog, which has daily, weekly, and monthly volume weighted averages attached to the candles. And we're going to go through a couple different moves that I often see, and we're going to give them a letter grade, and we're going to give them a plus or minus. And I'm going to tell you guys why. So, first off, we're only measuring the gap between the time when a new VWAP forms and that previous VWAP, whether it's a daily VWAP or a weekly VWAP or a monthly or even beyond. So we're looking at this gap right here, and that's going to determine whether it's a plus or minus. At 1%, I would say this is just a regular. So neither plus or minus, but if it's less than a percent, it's a minus rating. And if it's over 10%, that's a plus rating because we do get those juicy opportunities sometimes with VWAP. So knowing that you can get those super juicy opportunities, maybe that'll make you a little more pickier on the less juicy ones, or at least risk less money and be less of a gambler when it counts. But anyways, there's gonna be the different grades A, B, C, D, and F. And D and F are gonna be failed leapfrogs. These are leapfrogs that never go back to the previous period's VWAP. A D would just be any A, B, or C setup that looks like it's playing out, almost plays out, tries to play out, and then doesn't. So you were in the green for a little bit, but then it flops on you. That's going to be a D leapfrog. And an F rated leapfrog is going to be a leapfrog that gets left in the dust. No return back to that period's VWAP is needed when the new period comes. History is history, as they say. So, and that happens because in a strong uptrend, there are VWAPs from, I mean, look at Bitcoin's lifetime, guys. If you look at the BLX chart, and if you were to put a VWAP on the start of Bitcoin's life, look how far away we are from that VWAP. That VWAP is down at $8,000. So when a VWAP is left never to be touched again, any trade back to that VWAP is obviously an F. So with that, what is an A setup, a B setup, and a C setup? Well, they can all make you money and they can all lose you money. I wouldn't really rate them better or worse than the others, but in terms of ease of use for a new trader, I rate them this way. So an A setup is when a period comes and price immediately shoots straight to the previous period's VWAP. An example of this would be the March monthly leapfrog. So if I get rid of my indicator for a second, because I'm going to need to use the anchored VWAP tool. Do you guys remember what happened in March with those Trump tweets after that February dump? So we put a VWAP on March 1, and we put a VWAP on February. And you guys can see that when we zoom into that little area, and go all the way back. Look at this single in a 2-day span, we pump all the way back up to that February VWAP, about a 12% move, and we go straight there. There is no structure down here that we come and test. And so that right there would be an A setup. The new period comes and we go straight to the previous period's VWAP. And since it's over a 10% move, this is an A plus. So with this one move that happened this year, there's a lot of value in this. Like knowing that this can happen, this will benefit you greatly in the future if you keep your eyes peeled for this. Watch for these big gaps between the VWAPs. If it's a plus rating, take it seriously. And just know that this can happen. An A plus rated, grade A leapfrog right there. Now, what is a B rated leapfrog? A B rated leapfrog implies some sort of healthy correction before then going back up to the previous period's VWAP. So an example of that would actually be very recent. So if we put Leapfrog back on here, the current daily VWAP actually did it. So if we go on the 1 minute chart, you can see that we swept a minor low, basically just some microstructure on the chart, on the 1 minute chart. Once that new daily VWAP opened up, we swept that, and then we started moving pretty much straight to yesterday's VWAP. So the leapfrog from today is an example of a B-rated leapfrog. Now it's kind of a small move, only 1%, so it's not a plus or a minus. It's just a B-rated leapfrog, even though this trade could continue and keep going. And then there was another example of this. Actually, this is a little bit of a fractal, because when you go up the time frames a little bit and you measure what happened at the start of the week, you can see here that there was a sweep of some microstructure right here on the low of this candle. Once the new week had formed, we go down there, we sweep the micro low, and then we do the leapfrog. So that was another nice B-rated leapfrog. 1.5% move, also gave you continuation to the upside. Nice B-grade leapfrog right there. So, and not to say that this isn't like an A+ trading opportunity overall. I'm just simply measuring the gap between one VWAP and another, guys. So oftentimes these can be the springboards for larger moves, but sometimes that previous period's VWAP can be resistance. So personally, I'm one to take caution on that. But finally, what is a C-graded VWAP? A C-graded VWAP can be the toughest to catch, the toughest on your account, because if it rolls through, it usually means all the other setups are wiped out. But let me show you some examples. So a C setup is basically when a major high or low gets swept before that return back to the previous period's VWAP. So when we go to the daily, and we're going to put some fresh anchored VWAPs on, and we're going to go back to last October. We're going to put a VWAP on that, and we're going to put a VWAP on January 1. So this is a quarterly example. And this is a big time frame, so multiple things are happening throughout the experience here. But you can see overall we did actually have a really nice short trade. Like if you were bearish from the inception of Q1, then you were actually right in like going into the future. Although there was a dudded setup. There was a D grade setup here because look, you had originally a sweep of microstructure when the new period happened. And so you are aiming towards the previous period's VWAP, the Q4 VWAP from last year. It does not hit. It fails. And then you get basically stopped out / wrecked. So this is a D-rated leapfrog that started as a promising B-rated leapfrog. So that's a nice example there. And I would say it's a D+, because that was a large dump to the downside that you were in the green on quite substantially, but just happened to reverse on you at the end. But D+, I would rate that move. Whereas the second play, this was a C play here. So a C play is when a new period comes, we sweep the major high or low, and then we return to the previous period's VWAP. That was a C+ right there. Nice big gap down to the previous period's VWAP, and we had just swept a major high / low. So that's a good example of a C. We were talking about a C rating. This right here was a great C rating after that Trump inauguration. So it's even juicier when you tie it with a catalyst or a big major event. In this case, the inauguration day on January 20. Now, another example of a macro C rating was the next quarterly leapfrog. So going from Q1 into Q2 this year, you can see that a new period had began, and there was an attempt to pump off of some microstructure. You could see evidence of a B rating, a B plus, because look, it would have been a huge gap up to January's VWAP, 16%. Worth the trade, you know what I mean? So there were some valiant soldiers who gave their life in this range here, trying to long this sweep of this little low here. But the situation did get worse, and it grew into a C plus setup here. So we sweep this low right here, and then we proceed to pump back to the previous period's VWAP. And in this case, we get macro continuation. So very interesting case that happened there. So that's it. You got an example of an A, a B, and a C setup, plus and minus. But we can dive into this low here maybe a little bit. And then no, that's pretty much it. So that's how we're gonna talk about the VWAPs moving forward, guys. A, B, C, D, and F with plus and minus. So right now, what we're seeing now is a B setup that is at risk of becoming a D setup here. So when you start seeing warning signs like bearish divergence, knowing that this B could easily turn into a D, you know, that's a signal to take a little profit. You know what I mean? Even though it could keep going. So knowing what to expect, putting a name on it, I think helps. Even though this is kind of a hindsight type of insight, something that you can look back in the trading week and analyze your trades with. It's more about that than it is about helping the actual trades. Although knowing what could happen helps you with what is happening in the there and now. So I hope this video helps you guys. An A leapfrog is we go straight there with no retracement. A B leapfrog is there's a minor retracement and then we go and fill the leapfrog. A C setup would be the sweep of a major low, such as Fartcoin here. Fartcoin had that big sweep of my gosh, like look, a new period opened up. This new month of June opened up. We sweep the major low. We bounce off the Q2 VWAP. We go straight to the previous month's VWAP. That was an amazing C setup on Fartcoin there. So that's a C setup. And then a D is if any of those dud out. And then an F is if it just sucks and Fartcoin never pumped up at all. It just dumped all the way down here and just went to shit, basically. So that's how I would grade the leapfrogs and the different moves I've been seeing. Let me know in the comments what you guys have been seeing, what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.